So, Sudsers, I did a thing, and I don't know if it's a good thing, but it's definitely a thing. As some of you might remember, I started this channel about 2 weeks into COVID, and my retail shop had been shut down as a result. I was losing my mind, all the things. But about 2 weeks into the channel, I did a whole week's worth of videos of my Disney merch because that was the week that we were supposed to be at Disneyland for the girls' very first ever Disney trip, and obviously it got canceled because the world shut down. And the thing that I did, just barely, was I rescheduled that Disney trip. So in 2023, we are going to Disneyland. We have two concerts, Taylor Swift and Ed Sheeran. And we also have a fun, exciting trip scheduled for the fall time, just like we did in 2020. So if the world shuts down again for some sort of reason, it is me. Hi, I'm the problem. It's me, and I'm super sorry about it. Like I said, I don't know if this was a good thing, but it's a thing. So, keep your fingers crossed that everything just stays fine. I'm obviously not making a Disney soap today. As the title suggests, we are kicking off another Project Soapway reveal and challenge and all the things, and I will tell you more about that in just a minute. But before I do, hello, I am Mrs. Soap and Clay. Let's make stuff. How's it going, Sudsers? Welcome back to the channel. You are at Soap and Clay, where we make all the soapy things, and you are here for week 15 of year 3. And as I said, today we are kicking off another Project Soapway challenge and announcing the winners. But first, with the Project Soapway challenge, I go and I show you my submission of the Project Soapway challenge because I don't get judged or graded on the thing. I am the one that makes this stuff, and so my soap goes out regardless, even if it's crappy. So this particular Project Soapway challenge was a recipe-based challenge, and it was a coconut oil-free soap that still had a big bubble. Nice big lather. And those were really the only parameters that I gave. And so I didn't really care if it was hot process or a melt and pour base that had been made from scratch or a cold process recipe. I didn't really care. I just wanted to see a coconut oil-free soap and, of course, its resulting bubble. And I had so much fun with this challenge because it was actually challenging and did sort of feather into the conversations that we've had in the last few weeks about, things like what is palm oil free, right? If you're just removing the palm oil, but not removing the stuff that is made from palm oil, you're not really removing palm. And I experienced that problem with the coconut oil free soap right off the bat. It's like really boneheaded things. And I'll show you the recipe and all like the scribbling and scratch outs that I made with the additions and whatnot. But just as an example of what you're going to see, coconut oil free soap, right? But the first thing that I put into it was coconut milk. So I guess like technically it still hits the brief, like that doesn't have coconut oil in it, but I tried to put myself into the minds of a lot of the sudsers that make coconut oil free soaps because of an allergy. And so I wanted to eliminate all versions of coconut from my recipe. So that's what I did. And let's get to the video so we can talk about the recipe that I used. We can see my lather test and, all of the soapy things. Okay, so this is a disaster of epic proportions right from the beginning. So it's about a 1 pound batch of soap, and as you can see, I'm doing castor at 10%, cocoa butter at 20%, babasu at 50%, olive oil at 20%. That's all great. Love to see it. This is when things start going terribly awry with my additives. Now, 2 tablespoons of sugar, that totally makes sense. That's completely fine. 2 tablespoons in a 1 pound total batch of soap might be a lot for you, but don't always go do what they say on the internet. 1 tablespoon per pound of oils or whatever. Try it. Anyway, cetyl alcohol at 3%. But my cetyl alcohol, has coconut in it. So that's not good. And also coconut milk I put in there. Like an idiot. So technically speaking, the brief didn't specify that you can't use coconut additives to it, right? But I figured it would be a good idea to go ahead and pretend that I am making the soap as if somebody is allergic to coconut. So instead of just removing the coconut oil, how about we remove anything related to coconut? So that's what I ultimately did. I swapped out the coconut milk for beer, kept the 2 tablespoons of sugar, kept the 2 tablespoons of kaolin clay, and in a moment of panic, I added 2 tablespoons of meringue powder in it. Also, I spelled it wrong on my sheet because it says merengue, like the dance, instead of meringue, like the powder. And actually, that was a stupid idea. So I do not recommend doing any of that. Well, I don't recommend using the meringue powder because my meringue powder is vegan, actually. But in general, the idea of meringue or egg whites in soap, it tends to, instead of actually creating a big lather, because I was going for fluffy, I think, at the time when I did a panic substitution. I don't know. It was a thing. Anyway, meringue powder would probably act a lot like egg whites in that it's going to make the lather more sparse and like a gentler lather to use like on your face. So I do not recommend using meringue powder if you are looking for a great big bubble. But everything else is great. The beer obviously has all of the cool stuff in it that's going to be awesome for the bubble, the sugars mostly. And then I just sort of added even more sugar to the batch. Now with both of those, obviously the beer was in place of the water at a 100% replacement, and the sugar I put into the lye water. The lye water had cooled down a little bit because I do not freeze my beer when I use it in place of water for my lye solution. I just use it just like normal whatever. But it does get really hot and it can scorch. But as you can see, still got a white soap, so it all worked out. And so after it cooled down a little bit, because it gets kind of overly hot, I then put the sugar in. I used powdered sugar for this one, but you can use either granulated or powdered. But because I used the sugar when the lye was a little bit cooler, say around 140 degrees, I really wanted to make sure that the sugar was going to dissolve fully within the solution. And powdered sugar really does help with that for sure. So those are my additives, and we are mixing up the base layer of this soap. We can go ahead and talk about the base oils during the pour and, ultimately why I decided on all of the oils that I decided on and in the amounts that I decided to use them. And now let's talk about the oils and butters that went into this. First up, babasu. That's a really good, obvious substitution for coconut oil because it's basically a direct substitution. And also, looks like with this recipe, I ended up subbing babasu for coconut and palm. So this is coconut free and palm free. So there's that. And the olive oil is obviously going to be for the moisturizing properties because when you have a lot of babasu, which is going to create a big, nice, fluffy lather, you do want some moisturizing properties so it doesn't, strip the skin. You have to balance it all out. Now, for the castor oil, as we know, castor oil actually imparts a really good, beautiful lather to a soap. And I'm using it at 10% because I really do want to boost this lather just a whole bunch. And the cocoa butter is actually there for 2 reasons. One, to stabilize the lather, but also to make sure that the bar is going to be hard because I usually have more solid oils in my recipe. There's that. Now, this will be left on the counter, actually, not C-popped or gelled. And let's go check out the test. So I got really lazy with the lather test and I didn't want to bring, cameras and, stuff into the house. So I had Scout film it and she's all over the board. Soap and Clay Kidlet number 2 does not know how to stay still. So If you see pictures of my house or just an image, you know, behind, sorry about it. I took this to my prep sink in the kitchen and wanted to test it, and she wanted to bounce around. So there's that. The lather itself, it's not bad. I'm not mad at it. It's fine. I kind of wanted a bigger lather, especially after I got the submissions from the sudsers. Like, wowie wow. That lather was amazing. But this lather, it's actually really tiny, tight little bubbles. Very foamy. I really love it. And it's coconut oil free. So that one's mine for Project Soapway. And you guys are going to be blown away with all of the submissions that ended up winning, for sure. And there it is, my ultimate, you know, Project Soapway coconut-free soap. And yeah, that lather is amazing. That's really not much different than the lather that I get from all of the rest of my soaps that contain coconut oil. So there you have it right in front of you, proof positive that it can be done. You can get a beautiful big lather without the coconut oil. Now, I want to let you know that with this Project Soapway challenge, my lather is the least impressive out of all of the lather picks that were submitted. And I don't know, these soapers have some magic up their sleeves, and it is incredible because all of these soaps were so epic with their bubble. I just could not even, I was so blown away. I could not pick just 3 winners for it. And so what you're going to be getting in the rest of this week, the rest of this series, is actually 5 winners. Because as I said, since I didn't give parameters as to what the medium needed to be, I got cold processed soap submissions, I got hot processed soap submissions, and I got melt and pour from scratch base soap submissions. And so ultimately I ended up picking 5 winners. So that was a thing. That was a big thing. It was a lot. And you guys are going to love the rest of these videos. So look forward to that. Obviously, if you haven't subscribed, subscribe so you'll be notified when we do the premieres of all of the winners of Project Soapway, all 5 of them, which will start probably tomorrow, assuming I have my shit together. I'm not real sure about whether or not I have my shit together, but fingers crossed that I do. And yeah, thank you, sudsers, for joining me. Obviously, a huge thank you to the sudsers that submit for the Project Soapway challenges. It's amazing participating in these challenges with you guys, feeling an extended sense of community, because we already have such a cool community. And then when we're all doing a challenge together and I see all the chatter on the Discords and how you guys are talking about your soaps, and I'm trying to ignore it because, you know, I'm a judge and so I don't want to read too much of it. Otherwise, I might know who did what. It's delightful. Anyway, and I love it. And thank you for doing that. And for the rest of you that just exist here and are watching my videos and are not subscribed, I mean, that's weird, but, you know, okay. Hi. Thanks for being here. I will see you guys all again tomorrow for another round of Project Soapway coconut oil free soap recipe soapy fun. Bye.